in North Korea says they're going to try the 2 detained Americans. Have you had any notice on this, and any comment, please?
Sure. Well, we are aware of reports that U.S. citizens Matthew Miller and Jeffrey Fowle will face trial in North Korea. There's no greater priority for us than the welfare and safety of U.S. citizens abroad. Out of humanitarian concern for Mr. Fowle and Mr. Miller and their families, we request North Korea release them so they may return home. We also request North Korea pardon Kenneth Bay and grant him special amnesty and immediate release so he may reunite with his family and seek medical care. Beyond the reports, Leslie, I don't have any other official independent information, I guess I should say. I can also convey that the Embassy of Sweden in North Korea visited Mr. Fowle on June 20th and Mr. Miller on May 9th and June 21st. And the embassy, of course, regularly requests consular access to all U.S. citizens in North Korean custody.
Do you know, are they being held in the same place?
I don't have any more information on that. I'm happy to check and see if there's more we can provide.
Presumably, because you're now able to give their names, they've signed these privacy waiver
They have?
things. So can you tell us under what circumstances they were both arrested and what charges they might be facing?
There is additional information we're going to share. Yes, they did sign a Privacy Act waiver, but it doesn't obligate the department to share all information about each case and each circumstances, especially when it comes to ensuring or taking every step we need to help return them home.
So you cannot give us any indication of the charges they could be facing?
I don't have any more information to provide.
Quite apart, this is a new one on me, and I've been quite apart from this case. Are you saying that if someone signs a Privacy Act waiver, if we ask a question, you still don't have to answer it?
Well, I think Privacy Act waiver gives us the ability to provide more information, and we do that as often as we possibly can. And there are some cases where it's not in the benefit of the case or the individuals to provide more information.
But you make that decision, not the person?
Well, there are processes that we undergo to ensure we can provide as much information as possible, and there are times when it's not appropriate to.
Well,
this is one of those times.
Let's not forget about this case, 'cause, just in general, I don't get it. So if I sign a Privacy Act waiver saying I want you to tell the world about my case someplace, and one of my colleagues here asks you a question about it, you can say, well, he signed the waiver, but we just don't feel like telling you what the information is, so we're not going to?
That's not exactly how it works, Matt, but
Well, I
we
don't
provide
understand.
as much information as we can.
As you can, but if I've authorized you to go out and speak and tell and say what happened to me and what my condition is and everything, you can still decide to say
Well,
no, we're not going to. You can.
I think
say nothing.
if you were detained, you would want us to take steps that are in the best interests of your safety and security, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah. If I've signed the waiver saying I want my story to be told, I would expect you to tell my story if you were asked about it, not to say.
I'm
to
sure
tell
you've
people,
seen a Privacy Act waiver and what they look like.
I have.
It's not exactly stating that. So we make decisions about what information is appropriate to provide in the best interests of citizens who are detained overseas. And we'll do the same for you.
By that matter, you could say that you're not going to release any information ever, no matter what, no matter whether whether it's signed or not.
I think we make every effort to release as much information as we can.
So in
Go
this
ahead,
case,
Jen.
you can't confirm that they're facing trial. Even if you're not going to tell us what the charges are, you cannot confirm independently that they're facing trial.
I can't, and that's not related to the Privacy Act waiver. That's related to the fact that these are reports. We don't have additional information
So the
to
Swedish
provide.
embassy hasn't been able to convey that information to you, or they haven't been given that information?
I just don't have any more information to provide.
And can you give us an idea of what the embassy might have told you about their state of health when they saw them on June 20th and 21st?
I don't. I'm happy to check with them and see if there's more to provide. Obviously, we're requesting their release for humanitarian purposes. I will see if there's more on their health that we are able to provide to all of you.
I imagine that you've been in touch with the families of both these men?
We have been over the course of time. I don't have any new timing on that, but I can also check on that question as well.
Did the families make any request of this building to not release certain information about their loved ones, in particular why they chose to go to North Korea?
I'm just not going to be able to provide any more information.
Can you just say in general, because we have these cases coming up every so often involving U.S. citizens. The U.S. doesn't have diplomatic relations with North Korea. I assume that if I just decided I wanted to go, it would be very difficult for me to go without facing some sort of repercussion. What can be done to dissuade people
Well, we
from
don't
trying to
track
go?
the travel of United States citizens, but obviously we put travel warnings out, Roz, to
Yeah, but
make
if
sure
I-
people understand the circumstances they're walking into.
But certainly if I'm coming back through Dulles and I'm going through border control, I'm going to get the once over, maybe the once over, when they see that I have a visa, from DPRK in my passport. What can be done to dissuade people from going and almost certainly getting themselves into trouble every time an American steps foot on North Korean soil?
Well, that's one of the reasons that we provide regular updates that are available on the State Department website that we talk about frequently. All of you report about these cases as well, so I would encourage you to continue to do that.
And one of the older man, if I'm not mistaken, apparently was arrested after people found a Bible in his hotel room. And we all know how the DPRK feels about Christianity. Is it an unnecessarily provocative act for those who think that they're trying to spread the gospel to try to go to North Korea, knowing that they're running the risk of being arrested, being treated however the North Koreans are able to cover up whatever they do to them, and then expecting the U.S. government to come to their rescue, even though if you have a blue passport, you expect your government to come save you?
Well, Roz, I think we are focused on the health and safety and well-being of United States citizens wherever they are in the world, and we take every step to ensure they either are returned home or they are safe. We have consular access. You know how we feel about freedom of religion and freedom of and being able to express that. But certainly the reason we provide information about a range of countries is to ensure people know what circumstances they're walking into. And I don't have the North Korea travel warning in front of me, but I can assure you that it suggests strongly not to travel at all to North Korea. Go ahead, Allie.
Just two quick questions on that. Do you have any more on at what level the communication between State Department officials and the families of the men who've been detained have been taking place?
I do not. I can take that in the list of
Sure.
questions as well.
And then in the travel warning, there's plenty of caveats about the fact that these travel companies can't provide for safety of individual Americans. But I'm wondering, does this department take a position on these companies actually doing these tours and seemingly at times willfully putting American citizens in danger? Do you take a position on just the merits in general of these tours being conducted?
Well, I'm not going to get that specific, but clearly any tour company or any individual can access the information that we make available about travel and the warnings of travel to North Korea as well as other countries. And so I think that states pretty clearly where we stand about any type of travel. North Korea? Go ahead.
North Korea, as you know well, has launched the Scud missile last September. Last Saturday, sorry. And the Mary, your colleague Mary, told us that we are always concerned whenever they launch anything. So what about this time? We have some readout or.
Well, we're aware of reports that North Korea launched 2 projectiles from its east coast on June 29th, so just yesterday. We're continuing to closely monitor North Korean activities and the situation on the peninsula. We urge North Korea to refrain from taking provocative actions and instead fulfill its international obligations and commitments. But I don't have any further information on the type or specific details of the projectiles launched in this case.
As you know, President Park and Xi Jinping of China is going to meet in this week. Does the United States ask something, both China or South Korea to send a message to North Korea?
Well, as 2 of our vital partners in the 6-party talks that we engage with closely on the threat from North Korea, I'm certain, and I would refer you to them, but I would bet that this will be a part of their discussion, and we'll continue to engage closely with both China and Japan, China and South Korea, as it relates to their discussions. And certainly, as you know, we also encourage dialogue and restraint as it relates to relationships in the region as well.
one more thing, Japan will also continue to talk to North Korea about abduction issues after this. Are you consulting with Japan with regard to this timing and lift the sanction?
Well, we support Japanese efforts to resolve the abductions issues, and we encourage them to do so in a transparent manner. And we'd refer you to them for more information about their talks.
Can I just say on North Korea?
Sure.
North Korea this morning proposed that the two Koreas should halt hostile military activities later on this week. This appears to be ahead of the visit by Chinese President Xi Jinping. What is your reaction to this? Is this something that's welcome, or is it just a cynical ploy by Pyongyang to try and have some kind of image of being peace-loving ahead of the visit?
Well, broadly speaking, we certainly support improved inter-Korean relations, but with these specific exercises, these are defense-oriented and they're designed to enhance the ability to respond to any potential contingency that could arise. They're designed to increase readiness to defend South Korea and protect the region, and they occur around the same time every year and are a regular part of what happens in the region. So we've seen these calls before, and we certainly see the value in these exercises and the value in them continuing.
So you're not going to halt the exercises ahead of the visit by Xi Jinping to North Korea?
I would refer you to the Department of Defense, but I'm not aware of any plans to do that.
On the six-party talks, does the U.S. have any optimistic plan to resumption of six-party talk, future or near within this year?
Well, again, it remains in the ball remains in North Korea's court to take steps to abide by their international obligations and the 2005 joint statement. They haven't shown an indication of their plans to do that, so I don't have any prediction of a resumption.